Prices of R-vees just plummet as 3 million used R-vees got dumped. Dealers are stuck with floor plan credit bleeding them dry. Every unsold rig is another bill they can't pay, and auctions are exposing the ugly truth. Values are plunging, and the collapse has only just begun. So who survives when inventory turns toxic? Who dares to buy when every deal looks like a trap? And what happens when the same collapse spreads to the electric R-vee market next? Because the crash isn't coming, it's already here. And if you're even thinking about buying an electric R-vee, don't. Wait for the date we'll reveal later in this video. That's when prices are set to drop harder than ever. The 3 million dump. They sold you the dream. Now they're dumping 3 million nightmares on your driveway. The golden age of R-vee ownership that began during the pandemic has flipped into a tidal wave of used rigs no one can stop. Families who stretched every dollar for fifth wheels and travel trailers are suddenly desperate to unload them. Rental fleets that once clung to every vehicle are emptying their yards in bulk. Lease contracts signed in 2020 and 2021 are expiring, sending more supply onto already crowded lots and choking the resale market. This flood isn't just a trickle, it is a historic glut of recreational vehicles. 3 million units, many still carrying debt larger than their current value, are hitting the open market at once. Dealers who once bragged about record profits now stand knee-deep in unsold stock. What once looked like freedom now feels like a trap. And no one who owns an R-vee is safe from the crash looming ahead. Hidden behind the flood of R-vees lies the real betrayal. Financial strings tightening, banks pulling harder than anyone imagined. Banks pull the plug. When the banks turn off the faucet, the whole R-vee world drowns. During the boom, lenders handed out decade-long loans like candy, propping up an artificial market built on shaky foundations. Now, with values falling off a cliff, those same banks are yanking the ladder away without a second thought. Families applying for financing find themselves rejected for reasons that barely existed 2 years ago. Minimum credit scores are rising. Down payments are climbing. Interest rates quietly add hundreds of dollars to monthly bills, making ownership feel like quicksand. Dealers rely on floor plan credit to hold stock, but shrinking collateral means banks demand fresh cash. Each unsold unit becomes a liability, bleeding thousands in carrying costs and threatening bankruptcy. Owners already stretched thin see refinancing blocked, and when payments slip, the repo truck becomes the next visitor in the driveway. Every repossession adds another unwanted unit to auctions, multiplying the pain for everyone and dragging values further into the basement. Every repossession adds more fuel to the fire, spreading panic outward, infecting the market with fear that cannot heal. You've seen how repossessions are already poisoning values everywhere. If this collapse is hitting your area, hit subscribe and drop a comment with what prices look like near you. Auctions don't lie. Forget the sticker price. The auction block tells you what your R-vee is really worth, and the truth hurts. At dealer lots, prices may still look inflated, but in wholesale lanes, the mask is off for good. Bidders are cautious, lenders are strict, and reserve prices are collapsing. Each time a motorhome sells for less than expected, thousands of similar rigs instantly lose value. Auctions are the truth serum of the market, and right now that truth is ugly and unavoidable. For buyers with cash, auctions are a hunting ground where desperation sets the terms. Dealers desperate for liquidity let rigs go at shocking discounts just to keep lights on. Owners hoping to sell privately are blindsided when potential buyers wave auction results as bargaining weapons. Confidence drains away and the spiral accelerates. Even pristine units cannot escape once comparables fall. The market does not negotiate with hope. It only respects cold, hard bids. Buyers may cheer falling hammer prices, yet a darker menace lurks within the inventory, threatening lives and wallets without warning. Zombie R-vees. That bargain R-vee might already be dead, and nobody's telling you. In the chaos of mass liquidation, another danger slips through. Flood-damaged and hurricane-struck R-vees with paperwork scrubbed clean and titles that look perfect. On the surface, they appear fine, deodorized and polished for quick sale. But inside, hidden mold grows silently. Wiring corrodes where eyes cannot see, and brake lines rot from the inside out. Within months, that dream purchase can morph into a rolling hazard that empties your savings. Desperate sellers and corner-cutting dealers are the perfect breeding ground for these zombie R-vees. Families seeking deals are lured into financial nightmares, stuck with repairs that cost more than the vehicle is worth. The flood of inventory means more of these units will slip through unnoticed. noticed, especially as inspection standards crumble under mounting pressure. Bargains that sparkle under showroom lights may conceal dangers that can cripple your finances and endanger your family's safety. While consumers battle hidden dangers, dealers themselves are cornered, clinging desperately to survival as the walls begin closing around them. Dealer time bombs? Those rows of shiny rigs, they don't belong to the dealer, they belong to the bank. Every R-vee parked under the fluorescent lights of a dealer lot is financed through floor plan credit. Dealers rent their inventory day by day, and the meter never stops ticking. When sales were booming, this model looked brilliant. Units rolled in and rolled out, carrying fat margins with them. But as demand collapsed, that same system morphed into a crushing liability. Each unsold rig now bleeds interest fees that pile into thousands of dollars per week. Dealers cannot simply wait out the downturn. The longer stock sits, the deeper the losses. That is why many stores have slashed prices to the bone or liquidated altogether. Some scramble to cover loans by raiding service revenue or parts sales, but the hole only grows wider. Floor plan credit lines once meant leverage. Today, they are handcuffs. As dealers scramble under suffocating debt, manufacturers' earlier choices resurface, revealing greed-driven mistakes that ripple far beyond showroom floors. Factory greed. Factories saw dollar signs, not families. And now the whole system is cracking. After pandemic shutdowns ended, manufacturers slammed the accelerator. Determined to recover lost revenue, they pumped out R-vees at record pace. Executives assumed the demand surge of 2020 and 2021 would last forever. Instead, it evaporated. Families who had already bought their once-in-a-lifetime rigs were gone, leaving factories oversupplied. Lots across the nation filled with brand new stock, just as used R-vees flooded back into circulation. Incentives and rebates rolled out, but they punished existing owners by dragging resale values lower. The cycle grew cruel. The more factories pushed, the less used units were worth. Production schedules designed for endless growth became a millstone around the industry's neck. Overproduction's reckless surge doesn't punish equally. Certain owners feel the knife twist deeper, watching investments collapse faster than imagined. Luxury turns to liability. That $200,000 coach, it's now worth less than a pickup truck. At the top of the pyramid sit the Class A luxury motorhomes, once considered the trophies of the R-vee world. These rolling mansions sold out faster than factories could build them during the boom. But with fuel costs climbing and interest rates spiking, the market turned savage. The very rigs that symbolized freedom became anchors, dragging their owners under. Desperate sellers slashed tens of thousands from asking prices, only to find buyers scarce. Towables, smaller trailers, and pop-ups are weathering the storm somewhat better. Families can tow them with vehicles they already own, making them more practical in tight times. Still, values slide everywhere. The rule is brutal. The higher the original sticker, the harder the fall. Owners of top-tier coaches now face losses that feel like free-falling equity. Market devastation varies wildly by geography, with urban and rural America destined to endure very different crashes at painful scales. Metro crash, rural squeeze, cities slash prices first. Small towns collapse later and harder. In major metro areas, the crash hit early. Lots jammed with inventory forced dealers into a race to the bottom, cutting prices month after month. Urban buyers have alternatives: public transit, rideshare, or simply postponing purchases. To move product, city dealers slash margins and pile on incentives. Survival depends on volume, not profit. Rural America tells a different story. At first, sales look steadier, because R-vee culture runs deep and cars are essential. But when local economies wobble and credit tightens, rural towns take the deepest wounds. Fewer buyers remain to absorb the glut, fewer shops exist to service the rigs, and fewer lenders extend loans. What looks like resilience quickly turns into vulnerability. Communities tied to R-vee jobs see layoffs cascade through local diners, fuel stations, and campgrounds. Regional chaos reshapes buyer psychology, pushing individuals into strategies born from desperation, opportunity, and survival within an unraveling financial landscape. Cash is king. Walk in with cash today, and dealers will treat you like royalty. Financing has turned toxic. Loan approvals crawl, down payments climb, and interest rates squeeze families already on the edge. But for the rare buyer who shows up with a checkbook, the script flips. Dealers who once held all the cards now beg to move inventory. Cash buyers can slash thousands from asking prices, demand free add-ons, and walk away if terms are not perfect. In a collapsing market, liquidity becomes the most powerful weapon. The imbalance is striking. Families scraping for financing face rejection, while a small group of prepared buyers strolls through lots with unmatched leverage. For those with savings, inheritance, or liquid assets, the R-vee crash is not a nightmare. It is a clearance sale. They dictate terms, and the dealer has no choice but to bend. Cash might dominate today's battlefield, yet another strategy quietly brews, rewarding disciplined patience when the market finally caves completely. The patient strike. The biggest winners aren't first in line. They're the ones who wait until the blood is on the floor. In every crash, timing decides who profits and who bleeds. Impatient buyers rush into the market too early, catching falling knives as values continue sliding. But patient planners study the signals. Auction clearance rates, dealer incentives, and overflowing lots. They know the bottom arrives not with fanfare, but with desperation. When dealers cut prices just to survive and lenders still approve loans, that narrow window is where fortunes are made. Patience is not easy. Families eager to own their dream rig feel pressure to act, terrified of missing out. Yet waiting transforms collapsing prices into personal windfalls. These buyers pounce only when panic peaks, turning other people's losses into their advantage. In this market, discipline is the sharpest blade. Precision timing demands discipline, but hesitation is fatal. Missing the bottom transforms opportunity into regret heavier than financial debt. The contrarian play. While everyone else chases the shiny rigs, smart contrarians scoop the overlooked gems. In every crash, the herd runs in the same direction, stampeding toward what looks safe. That is why contrarians thrive. Instead of fighting for the most popular trailers, they target unfashionable brands, older models, or compact rigs ignored by the crowd. What others see as boring or outdated, contrarians see as opportunity. Their logic is simple. Popular models attract bidding wars even in downturns, while forgotten units linger. A savvy buyer willing to polish an unfashionable brand or accept a smaller floor plan can save tens of thousands. These contrarians understand value is not about prestige. It is about utility. They treat the collapse as a scavenger hunt, turning scraps into treasure. While contrarians feast on overlooked bargains, thousands of struggling owners suffocate beneath impossible loans, locked inside quicksand traps tightening daily. Owners in quicksand, you're paying champagne prices for a rig the bank now says is worth beer money. The cruelest corner of the crash is not buyers circling for bargains, but owners already trapped. Families who signed decade-long loans during the boom now owe more than their rigs are worth. Selling means swallowing massive losses. Refinancing is impossible as banks tighten. Even voluntary surrender leaves a scar on credit that can haunt for years. The psychological toll is heavier than any spreadsheet calculation, cutting deeper than raw numbers ever could. Couples who once bought rigs to secure a sense of freedom now feel permanently chained, watching dreams dissolve. Parents who once promised carefree vacations must instead explain repossessions to confused children, their voices breaking. Negative equity is not just figures on a ledger. It is humiliation, mounting stress, and gnawing despair that spreads into every corner of life. Owners cling to fading hope that values will rebound, yet with each passing month, the trap tightens, squeezing harder until escape feels impossible. Individual agony spills outward, igniting political brawls and corporate decisions where suffering households collide violently with Wall Street's insatiable hunger. The Washington crossfire. When 3 million rigs crash in value, even Congress has to pick a side. The flood of collapsing R-vee values has spilled into politics, forcing lawmakers into a fight they never wanted. Constituents are demanding answers as their retirement toys turn into anchors. Lobbyists push for relief, arguing that credit lines must be loosened or entire towns will be gutted. Others warn that any bailout is just rewarding reckless behavior by manufacturers and dealers. The debate rages fiercely across congressional committees, with every side digging deeper. Some politicians seize the moment to posture as defenders of small-town America, parading speeches about hardworking families and crumbling communities. Others cling stubbornly to fiscal restraint, declaring taxpayers must never be forced to bail out what they call expensive toys on wheels. At the same time, draft bills quietly circulate in back rooms, proposing tax credits, loan restructuring programs, or targeted subsidies for factories located in politically vital swing states. Yet gridlock dominates the floor, every delay intensifying the collapse and worsening the economic pain spreading outward. Politicians may argue endlessly, but on the factory floor the truth is brutal. Production stops, workers vanish, and communities collapse. Washington is already choosing sides, And you've just seen how deeply politics and factories are colliding. If you want the truth before it hits your driveway, subscribe right now. The next wave is already building, and missing that update could cost you more than money. It could cost your future security and freedom. Factory fallout. Every shuttered plant means hundreds of workers sent home, and whole towns gutted. In Indiana, Ohio, and across the Midwest, R-vee factories once roared day and night. Now silence echoes through assembly lines. Layoffs that began as temporary have become permanent closures. Workers who built rigs for decades are sent home with severance that barely covers a month of bills. Suppliers of appliances, windows, and chassis frames lose orders overnight. The collapse radiates outward in every direction, reaching far beyond factory gates. Restaurants that once thrived on steady factory crews go eerily empty, leaving owners desperate. Local tax bases wither, starving schools, police departments, and essential services that depend on those dollars. Entire communities tied to R-vee production stumble into economic free fall, their foundations cracking. The irony is vicious. While executives in distant boardrooms pivot to reassure shareholders, the very workers who built the dream rigs lose everything. For these families, collapse is never theoretical. It is groceries, heat, and keeping roofs above their children's heads. As small towns unravel, investors circle like vultures, measuring losses not in lives or jobs, but in shrinking quarterly profits. Wall Street's exit. Smart money doesn't wait around. It's already fleeing R-vee stocks. Investors have no patience for collapsing margins. As inventories swell and guidance gets slashed, Wall Street rotates out of R-vee manufacturers. Shares that soared during the pandemic boom now tumble week after week. Analysts downgrade outlooks, citing declining sales and overbuilt lots. Bond markets sniff danger as credit spreads widen, signaling fear that defaults could climb. For hedge funds, this collapse is never personal. It is pure arithmetic. They quickly dump exposure, shift capital into safer industries, and walk away unscathed. Yet for ordinary workers and small investors, the retreat feels like a knife in the back. Retirement accounts shrink without warning, pensions tied to manufacturing stocks take sudden hits, and household confidence evaporates overnight. The market once propelled by hype and promises now bleeds from fear, mistrust, and abandonment. When Wall Street bolts for cover, Main Street is left stranded, watching wealth evaporate faster than anyone believed possible. While hedge funds quietly escape, ordinary families confront the real decision: seize collapsing prices strategically or remain trapped, paying crushing debts. The buyer's clock. Miss the window, and you'll pay for 5 extra years. For ordinary families, the crash is not an abstract chart. It is a decision point. Wait too long, and bargains vanish as inventory clears. Jump too soon, and you lock into a loan just before another markdown. The sweet spot arrives when desperation peaks, when dealers cut deepest to shed stock but lenders still write loans. That window will not stay open. Buyers who act strategically can turn the chaos into generational deals. Sellers who cling to yesterday's values risk losing every dollar of equity they hoped to protect. Timing is everything, and hesitation is a cost measured not in theory, but in years of payments. The crash is here. The clock is ticking. The 3 million wave is here. The only question is, will you seize the moment or be crushed by it? The 3 million wave is already crashing, and waiting won't save you. Protect your wallet, protect your future, take control before the market decides for you. Hit like if you learned something new. Share this with someone who needs the warning, and subscribe right now so you never miss the next critical update.